Can we also have Mr. Satish, Mr. Atul, and Mr. Anton to have the question and answer session? I'm sure most of you have a lot of questions, so please feel free to ask any of the questions to any of them here.
Other is to Satish's neighbor. The first question is, you had spoken about the online component playing a major role in brand building, brand perception, and also to a major part crisis management when the brand perception is damaged, right? So that puts a lot of focus on analytics of social sentiment, listening to the right place and all that. But the problem is, by definition, the internet has three things. One is bias, the next is subjectivity, and a lot of bad data, right? So how do you weed that out effectively before making any decision?
So analysis will come into picture now. So what we need to evaluate it specifically, collect information, what's happening, because you will never know. I wouldn't just point out as what's happening only on the Facebook or the social media, Twitter, or any of those areas, but also there are so many places that happens. For example, we do some assessments for businesses and all. What we have identified, it's not the Facebook, Twitter, or this one. Somebody has written a blog about a business and this one. So we need to listen at various levels. So sentimental analysis, keyword analysis is what you might want, or what is attached to that particular brand or the company, and say evaluate the content, evaluate this one, try to fit in the right words to say, okay, this is positivity, this is negativity. There's a lot of role that technology plays over there, but also there needs to be some amount of human intervention over there to clear out the bad activity stuff and all, and then evaluate those stuff, and then you can see where you want to go in and what needs to be done. But most important thing is not just evaluating, but also to engagement. So you need to go and answer. If you have to apologize, apologize. If you have to correct, you have to correct. Thank you.
So two of the most successful brands in the recent memory of almost everybody here. Now, if you were managing branding for Maggi, what would you have done?
So I think in my view, Maggi has been more of a victim of circumstances than anything else. What I've come to understand is that the concentrate is where the lead concentration is high, but when it is in the final preparation, which is mixed with the noodles and water, the concentration is within the limits. So technically it is not appropriate to test the component of the food instead of the real food itself. So I think it just went in that way. But how would I have done it differently? I don't know, because to be very honest, you can't predict how you're going to behave unless you're actually in that tough spot. But on sort of a broad basis, given that you asked me this question, I think they should have been a bit more there when the crisis was happening. It just appeared that they have disappeared, and to some extent, I sort of started thinking that maybe there is a malicious attack being done by some competitor or some kind of some party which had an interest in Maggi going down. I was having that suspicion because every time Maggi will just not be there. There will be no quote from Maggi. There will be no sort of action or any statement from Maggi coming in during the crisis build-up process, and it pretty much felt like somebody is making a unilateral statements out there, and that's what I think was something that was not digesting with me, at least. I don't know if
Can
you
I
have something to add.
add one more thing actually? When this crisis happened, I wrote an article in LinkedIn, what should Maggi or Nestle India should do to salvage their reputation, in fact. I said, don't talk. I said, don't talk. If you start talking, people will take that and spoil your reputation more and more. I would like to quote another example. Amy's Baking and Catering, ABC. It's an American bistro, and they talked a lot. I understand, I think you know, right? So what happened? Their reputation actually got more and more spoiled and got featured in MasterChef America about what not to do, a case example kind of scenario. Yes, I agree with you. That's where even in my article I mentioned, Cadbury did not do, they accepted their problem to come back to the becoming the top chocolatier. But Maggie is not doing that. That's where they're losing their stand over there. They should, at various levels, businesses, in fact, in my book, I talk about neutralizing mechanism. I say, go ahead, apologize. You are at fault, go and apologize. Do not take this one. If you have to handle it, so not everybody is going to listen to you the way you think. If at various scenarios, I do agree that Maggie is at fault, because when you say, somebody says that you are at fault and you say, no, I'm not at fault. The other person who's talking into the media is not a crazy guy for not telling without any facts. So I agree with you that, okay, they should have accepted their fault or try to bring in a little more clarity in what has happened or something.
But I only realized that alcohol is just badly advertised by all the branding guys. Otherwise, liver and kidneys get equally spoiled by Maggie. That's what I learned.
I'm from the real estate background. I run a real estate training company, so I train realtors how to sell real estate. So one very peculiar problem that we face in the real estate sector is talking about brands. The general perception of most of my customers is that builders are not ethical or they don't follow the rules. So how do you handle an entire industry-wide branding issue? Even if I'm the best builder, I'm maybe 10 notches below the average of other industries. So how do you handle such issues where I may be the best in my industry, but still the industry benchmark itself is very low? So how do you address such questions? Satish, you're the...
To go back to another article I've written, I think it was in Desinfo itself, yeah. When we see what real estate businesses have to do actually, in fact, while speaking to some builders, we were talking about creating an assessment, telling what you have to do in order to have a better presence online. Most of the businesses, okay, they have a bad, most of businesses, why they have bad negative reputation or that is only not because they're bad. It's because they don't make the best use of the good. I would say almost all people over here are businessmen, and it's invariably you will have 10 to 15% of your customers are unhappy customers. Now, that means to say 80-85% of your customers are happy customers. Then most of the times what happens, you do not try or you do not make effort to take inputs from these people or ask these people to promote you. Because you do not do that, it's only the unhappy customers who will definitely speak more about you and he will push more about it. So it's like positive customers talking nothing about it and negative customers talking a lot about it. It creates a lot of wrong impression about the business. But let's take an understanding, if I have a 10 negative reviews and I have a 10 positive reviews, possibly it is not that good, but still it is okay. But if I have 50-60 positive reviews and 10 negative reviews, probably it will equalize. Okay, there's a standard stat that says if you have one negative review, to equalize it, you require to have 12 positive reviews. So that's where I was talking about build your reputation. Do not go into damage protection mode. So more and more collection of your reviews, asking your customers to talk about you, asking your customers to push your brand is most important than you're just doing. And that is not just the real estate industry, it's the same with all industries. and only that is because in real estate industry it's a big investment activity, it shows up a lot.
And most of the IT companies actually, quite a few people working in IT industries, I'm sure, will completely agree that in the next release of my product, I clearly say, by the way, these are the 10 problems with my existing release, So my existing release sucks in these 10 ways. And that's what I understood because of I'm listening, right? Because I'm listening. And now, here is my plan to fix at least 5 of them into my next release. So that communication will help a lot is what I personally feel.
Correct.
We know that you're exploring opportunities in India for investment as well as, for basically spreading business out here. Wanted to understand, most of the investors, I think that Alok also would be able to answer on this. Most of the investors follow a trend, as to say. So let's say somebody invests in e-commerce, all the other investment companies are really looking for an e-commerce guy to invest in. Somebody, invests in a mobile app. Oh wow, maybe travel is the best thing to invest in, so we're going to pump in funds there. And then again, it's so influences even the startup saying, oh, okay, fine, there's a US company which is doing this, maybe we should have the Indian version of this. And that's what will get funded. And, actually speaking, that seems to be true to an extent because that also gets funded. Whether they're new, whether they're not, generating revenue or whatever. So what is that? Why is that tendency to invest in something, in spite of being risk takers, investing in something that's safe, which people have already invested in, and why? How are you going to change that?
I understand your plan while calling me here. So nobody will ask questions, but you will, right? So yes, you're right that lots of investors and my company, our company also doing same. So model that already tested in different countries. Much more safer to launch in India than to do something, than to create new cycle here. Because if one model works in US market, with very high chances it will work here also. But also there are some mentality issues that can be stopping factors for different models. So in our product, so a little bit about our company. So we launched Auto Portal and Bike Portal company here in India almost 2 years ago. So we faced problem that there is an issue with content. So content market is very unorganized in India. So there is thousands of writers, lakhs of writers probably, and there are very good quality writers here. But finding those writers is big problem. It was for us a challenge. So we have a few people in our team that just handling the work with freelancers, which creates different time issues. So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of invoices to pay. So basically, we took the model that already works in United States, the model that already works in Russian-speaking countries, in my country, where I came from, Ukraine, and just launched it here because we found that this is empty niche here. So basically, we're Uber for writers. So we are solving the problem connecting writers with customers. But talking about brand, if the topic of today evening is brand, so problem that we are facing now. So we're just Auto Portal and Bike Portal exist for last 1.5 years, but Content Mart is very fresh in the market. So it's just 2 months. So we are now in stage, as you were saying, we're just creating a product, but not talking loud about it. But problem that we are facing now that if you're working as a marketplace, if behind your company is thousands of writers, then your reputation is very can be very damaged by the writers that doing not quality work. So our goal now is to create platform that actually will help customers to find right writers, because otherwise, if they will be not satisfied with the work that writers will apply, then it will damage our reputation, not the writer's reputation.
True. I'm looking for it. Why is there, is it just safe to invest in somebody who's doing something very similar to something that's been invested in already, or is there some other psychology going behind in investing in similar kind of many different investors investing in similar kind of companies?
Of course, it's safe to invest on existing models. Creating new models is much more expensive. Even if you're launching something first in the market, it's always more expensive than if you're launching something second. So answer is, of course, launch something that already exists in the world.
I think it's a matter of evolution cycle also. I'll give you a crude analogy. It's not perfectly applied, but still a crude analogy. Let's say an artist comes over to you and says, "I'll paint a Mona Lisa picture, and give me $100,000 for that." And the copy of that Mona Lisa picture will, for a fact, will sell for like $150,000. You'll definitely give that money, as long as you believe that the guy can actually do a good copy of the painting work. So as long as you believe the guy can actually do a good execution of that painting work, you'll give that $100,000 to that guy, because you can get $150,000 back. But if an artist comes to you and says, "I'll paint the most valuable picture in this world," you need to have two convictions on that guy before you hand out $100,000 to that guy. One is, he can imagine how the most valuable picture is going to look like, and he can actually paint that picture. Having these two convictions is a far more difficult thing to do than having the first conviction. And I think it's a matter of evolution of the ecosystem or evolution in the industry. Indian startup ecosystem has dramatically changed in the last 4 years. Pretty much that is the age of the ecosystem. Yes, I'm not being disrespectful of the entrepreneurs who have created companies like Make My Trip, Just As. Those were amazing businesses. But I'm saying, largely speaking, the startup evolution in the country has started happening in the last couple of years. That's when good ideas, good teams are coming out. I think it's a matter of evolution. Now there are going to be times when investors have a conviction that yes, this guy can envision how the most valuable picture is going to look like, and he'll paint this picture. So there will be enough people handing out those kind of monies.
The second question, I think most people have to start with a blank slate or have to imitate when they have to start something new. But then there's also the other way, wherein they can actually look at the market, how the trends are going, what is being done, what's the gap that's being created by a lot of other solutions that are already coming in, and reports and analysis and big data and things of that sort, and refer them and then start making solutions. But that's not the way most brands work. Is there any specific reason why that is not taken? I mean, apart from the cost, of course. Most new startups or most new brands that are created don't really first find out, okay, what is the market saying? How am I, how is this particular industry doing? How is it being positioned? What is that is lagging in this, according to the industry experts, according to the Gartners, Forresters, S&Ps, etc., and then start, building something on that. Because I think all of them are putting so much efforts in bringing you what the market really means. That's not the way that most people take, though that's an intelligent way. Why is that so? Is there something else other than just the cost involved to buy those reports that's stopping them?
I'll again give an analogy for this. It's like love marriage versus arranged marriage, right? In arranged marriage, you do a full due diligence, full report. What's the family background, where this person, this girl has been living, how much she earns, where is she employed, all of this, can she sing, can she cook, etc., blah, 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 50 questions. And you're doing full due diligence, and you're understanding what the personality is. The chance of understanding the personality is far higher in this case than love at first sight and then just marrying that person, right? So
considering
here you
arranged
basically
marriages
just
work better in India.
Here you just fall in love with an idea and then you just go ahead and get married. And that's basically the startup ecosystem is. You just find a good idea and you feel passionate about that idea. You can't think about anything else in life because your brain is completely engrossed in that idea, and you forget about all due diligence, all sort of research reports, etc., and just get on executing that idea. Whereas doing a research report is kind of a arranged marriage where you're looking at all the reports, let's find the industry trends, this is a sweet spot, this is where I should be working. But those kind of ideas or those kind of businesses are generally not driven by passion. And in a startup in a startup life where the journey is actually a really roller coaster ride, where highs are high, very, very highs, and lows are really, really lows, where you actually see near-death experiences in the startup world. Unless something is being driven by passion, it will not sail through. It will not see light at the end of the day. So love marriage is much better approach in the startup world than arranged marriage.
In a branding questionnaire, love marriage versus arranged marriage being discussed. I personally think you can't really demarcate too much between homicide and suicide. However, I have a very specific question for you, Alok. I didn't hear one thing today coming from all of you stalwarts. At Redbus, you treated the whole campaign as Redbus being a person and their requirements. You've done it differently at free charge. Don't you think with every business and every industry, it's the innovation that will play the largest role in how you want to develop your brand, and it could be different for everything depending on the time, industry, and the situation? I would like to hear from you.
I agree with your question. Just I 100% agree with you, saying it in a different way. I think innovation is going to basically be the backbone in which future life will survive. In today's world, it is not what you know that matters. It is more of how soon you are able to figure out how things work that matters. And so basically another way of saying it is that in like 10, 20 years back, it was knowledge which used to matter. It was the experience which used to give that knowledge which used to matter. Today, the pace at which you can educate yourself, at which you can learn, learning is what matters. And that's why we are seeing that a 25-year-old guy can very easily beat a 50-year-old guy. Even though the 50-year-old guy has got far more experience and he has seen ups and downs of life, he can very easily draw conclusions from gut basis, etc. But because 25-year-old guy has learned those hacky contemporary techniques by which that guy can learn much, much faster, he's able to innovate much faster than an older guy without being any disrespectful to the older guys. I'm also getting old. But essentially, the pace at which we learn today is what is going to matter. It is what is going to keep us relevant. Otherwise, all of us are going to become relevant in the next 4 or 5 years because things are changing so dramatically. There's no way to remain relevant in the industrial world unless we keep learning.
Analogy of the arranged marriage and love marriage. So let me ask the same question from a slightly different perspective. So I'm a designer by heart, and I'll say there are two types of innovations. One innovation wherein I wake up, I'm Steve Jobs, and I say that, hey, this is the product for you, and bingo, 3 years down the line, it becomes successful, right? It's my hunch. There is no so much process, at least defined on the paper. The second type of innovation is actually a lot of process driven. And actually, I have seen the second type of innovation also sufficiently successful as well as sufficiently unsuccessful. And the trick I believe over here is trying to talk to your users. So trying to see what is the real problem they are facing, you know. Like Redbus tried to figure out, the problem is not, it's very difficult to buy the ticket. The problem is more towards the kind of challenges, the kind of the complexity that comes in while I'm making that decision, you know. So I think talking to the users, trying to get to the bottom of the real problem is where the solution lies. So bring in your users. I remember doing a design exercise for one of the electronic goods brands, wherein I was designing a refrigerator for Indian housewives. It's very difficult. I'm not a housewife. I'm a designer. I use a refrigerator, but my perspective is very different, right? So we brought in 5 housewives from different classes of the economy and brought them into our design studio. And then we taught them techniques of design. Primarily, it was a one-day workshop wherein these 5 housewives actually gave us about 20 to 25 fabulous ideas, those we could put into the product, you know. So try and listen to your customers, and the designers may not, or maybe the entrepreneurs may not be the Hitler saying that, hey, this is the best product for you. It sometimes works, but mostly using some amount of methodology wherein do a little test, and if it doesn't work, yeah, how about taking this route? If it doesn't work, how about taking this route? So rather than being a lion, I would love being a dolphin, So quack, quack, no, quack, quack, yes, it goes over here. And that kind of a repetitive methodology will definitely give you a bit of solution.
Everybody's information, mine is a love marriage, 18 years running. Value has been doubling every quarter. I think we are at 18 billion now, roughly, right? And my wife is here. This is my final question, and I would like answers from all four of you. I would like to know how each one of you would define a successful brand, right? Just give me 2 sentences in which you will define a successful brand.
My point of more people are connected to it and more people know about it. That's what my definition of brand is. The way I see a brand only from the perspective of the end user, what they perceive it as it is. So more number of people know about it, it's a successful brand.
Sad if the brand is not available tomorrow morning.
So I think that successful brand will be the brand that owns the biggest market share, because the brand is the tool. The brand is not just the word, the brand has some reason why you're building this brand, to build your business. So if you have the brand that owns the biggest market share, then probably it's successful.
This is actually going more like an exam. Anyway, so my bit would be a very well articulated value proposition of your business, which is communicated well to the right target audience.
I would like to add one more. Something I remembered while researching, while writing the book. A successful brand is something that the actual item is lost and the brand is taking place of instead of that. Example, Syntex tanks. People know, everybody know only by Syntex. They go to the shop, say Syntex dena bhai. They don't say water tank chahiye. Okay, so that is what is the response. Exactly, Xerox. People want Xerox, not written. So that's where I see it.
Right, so I like, you know whose answer I like.
My name is Rajnikant. I run a trading company, software company. For me, the confusion is always the brand, whether the brand is a company or the brand is a person. For example, we all know Steve Jobs himself is a brand who made an Apple brand. And the problem when it happened for Cadbury, a brand like Amitabh Bachchan was required to overcome that particular thing. So, especially for a small entrepreneur, is a brand the person or brand the company?
Brand, actually a company is driven by people of it. So individual's brand is also important as well as the products and services brand as well. Okay, the people who drive, it makes it more interesting. I would say tomorrow Alok is again doing another business. There the brand Alok plays a big role. Okay, rather than if somebody tomorrow I go join a big branded company, then that because it's a brand there, rather there's a weightage. Okay, who's the better one of it? But effectively, the brand is, from my perspective, I say it's not just the products and services; it's the company as whole and the people who drive that. In fact, very good question here. One of the components of evaluating the top 100 reputation companies is the leadership, the products and services, as well as the company's brand value. So all the three, along with how they perform on their CSR activities and governance or the citizenship, that's what they say, play a role in evaluating what is the brand of that company.
As you mentioned about the housewives developing a fridge, I look at this real estate, why it is in so bad shape of no bookings happening or whatever it is. All are focusing on more of brand. They don't walk the talk. Like, not even one builder I have come across saying, they are not following the fair practice. If they follow fair practice, like if a customer doesn't pay in time, they charge 18%. If they don't deliver in time, they give 2 rupees to 5 rupees per SFT as compensation. There is no fair practice. Second thing, if their intentions are good and no siphoning of funds for some other projects kind of thing, they can very well they create the group. Like, for example, I am booking a flat, so many people are booking a flat. The day one, they can voluntarily create the group and update everything. Most of the time, they divide and rule. So, if you see these 2-3 things, if they follow the fair practice, I am sure if any builder launches the project, within no time it will be booked. Here, what I am trying to tell is brand building and all those things, activities are right, provided you are talking you are walking what you are talking. Deliver the right products without any intentional cheating. By oversight like Maggie or anything happens, it is not intentional. By somebody's mistake. Company is good, some people are bad in executing certain things. That's what I'm trying to add over and above the building the brand. Thank you.
So brand, I believe, is like a name that is given to a newborn kid, and when sometimes that is given even before the birth. Sometimes it is given when the kid is actually start working. So effectively, the relation between the brand and the product or the company itself is almost like the name given to the kid. So if at all I search for the most successful businessman in India, Mukesh Ambani, Ratan Tata, and I pick up their name, Ratan, and I name my son Ratan. So will that make my son Ratan Tata? Obviously not. So that is my intention. My intention is, okay, because I have given him that name, he might go into that. But I think brand is not just the logo, the whole hard work all the company does, everybody in that company does to build that name to become Ratan Tata.
Before we actually conclude, can I request Mr. Amit to give away the mementos? Thank you, sir. And to Mr. Atul. Thank you, sir. To Mr. Satish. Thank you, sir. And to Mr. Anton. All right, so thank you so much. Thank you.